Hi. Boy, am I happy to have been here today. It's been a wonderful day. Thank you, all the speakers, for everything you shared. I finished my notebook, actually. I didn't start it today, but I finished it. Um, well, I'm editor-in-chief of an online magazine about education. We only launched about 2.5 months ago. We're on our 13th week. But there's some heritage, sort of, some legacy to this publication. I also work for DOR, which is a narrative journalist magazine in Romania, the only one. We publish quarterly and we publish long form. My last story was 75,000 characters. That's a lot of words. And that's what the magazine looks like. It has very long form, like really long articles documented for a long time. But when we started discussing about having an education bit, or actually turning our education bit into something independent, a publication on its own that would only cover education, whatever's in and around the school up until 12th grade, I realized that's not sustainable for somebody who wants to publish daily with a team of 6 people. So we sit down and we thought about how we want to do this. And there were 2 things that shaped our vision, so to speak. One of them is none of the reporters on this team, which have been specially recruited, have any kind of background in education. Well, they've been to school, but other than that, not so much. And we wanted this website, I'm going to call it because it's the easiest way. We wanted, Școala Nouă is Romanian for new school. And there's a play upon the words because 9 means also new. We wanted people to look at the magazine and think, oh, that's what my school looks like. So, because the rest of the media covers policy, what the ministry is doing, what the minister is saying, and we have every 6 months a new minister of education, and they seem to be dumber and dumber every time. No, I'm not kidding, just last year, we had the Minister of Education who said, when he was asked on live TV, why do we say the education is free in Romania, but if the parents have to pay for a lot of stuff in school? And he said, well, it's free for the child. It's the state and the parents who pay for it. Yeah, that's the level. This is what we're dealing with in education. And of course, this is very annoying and needs to be covered. But there's the other things, all the other things that happen in schools. Schools they're like a universe of their own, and they don't exist by themselves. They are part of a community. They collaborate with people in the community, with other institutions, with the parents, with NGOs. So schools themselves can be very interesting places to be in, and that's what we wanted to show. And for that, we need to show the details of the life in school. Let's see. Yes. Mark Kramer, wonderful journalist and writer, he wrote this book called Telling True Stories, which is sort of my Bible, made me quit my job and become a journalist. No kidding. And he has this, well, a lot of people say this, it's not just him, that truth is in the details. If you want, we took it like this, if we want people to recognize themselves in what we write, in what we produce, it has to hold the details of their daily lives. And this is how we did this, or how we do this, actually. We just started. Well, it's going to be a lot of Romanian, but I'll explain. We look at our community as partners, not as audience. Because we don't know what's happening in schools. None of us has children in school. Well, most of my colleagues are 23, so they definitely don't have that. So we're reaching out all the time. This is a form that we put out only for students, for them to tell us what they think the media should write about their daily life. And we got hundreds of answers with contacts, and we emailed them back, and we called them, and we picked up a lot of good stories. We listened to them. For example, this is our art director is a up-and-coming collage artist, and she's very famous and very highly regarded, and she's doing a lot of our visuals. we wanted to do, because school just started, we wanted to do a history of the school uniform, which is not compulsory anymore in school. And we asked people to send us photos of their school uniforms from when they were kids, or from their parents. And we got pictures as old as from, I think, 1951. And we could rebuild the whole history of school uniforms in a way that's entertaining and not academic, but it's also informative. There is this tradition in Romania, and I'm sure everyone in Eastern Europe will recognize this. Before the school starts, parents are asked for money. The so-called money for the class or money for the school. It went from very few things that they needed in a classroom, like chalk and stuff like that, and now they're actually rebuilding whole classrooms. And we asked parents to tell us how much they've been asked for and how much money they're spending in order to go back to start a school. And about 350 parents answered, and we got a very revealing situation of what's happening in schools. They have to buy laptops, they have to buy projectors, they have to buy basically everything. There is even a sort of tradition in a school in Constanța. Well, at the end of the first of primary school, parents of the class that graduates take everything away with them, benches, everything, because they paid for it. So the new class has to, they basically go into construction because all they get is 4 walls and the ceiling, hopefully. And this was all done with the community. We wouldn't have been able to gather that kind of information by ourselves, even if we had just talked to a lot of people. And we experiment a lot with shape. This is a story. If you have children in school, you're probably on a WhatsApp group. This is so prevalent in Romania. Parents are in a WhatsApp group with the other parents, and another one with the teacher, and another one for the other extracurricular activities. They're all in 8 or 9 or 10 groups, which are extremely active and annoying. And this is part of their lives, but you cannot really talk about this in an academic way. So we asked a writer, like an actual fiction writer, but who's also a journalist, to write down the most common discussions that happen on the groups of her children's school. And then we asked an illustrator to turn this into something easy to follow. And you see a daddy left the group. That happens a lot. There are lots of basically what happens in this scene is that somebody is saying there's going to be a field trip. Everything is paid for by the school. This is a rich school. Everything's paid for by the school. Tell us if your child is not coming. And then everyone says, my son is coming, so is my son, so is my daughter, so is my daughter. So this kind of thing happens and just makes people crazy every day. I'm sorry, it's in Romanian and you cannot understand it, but if you are in that situation, you can probably relate. Again, finding the shape of the story, I know that in Poland and Ukraine, this is huge. Like on the day of the graduation, students who graduate 12th grade, they have a huge day outside in the city. They take photos and it's a whole celebration dedicated to them. That started to happen in Romania too, and richer kids, because obviously they're richer and poorer kids, they hire a professional photographer to photograph them, and they travel around in a limousine to take photos around the city. And we did a photo story, it's just photos and some captions of one of these photographers. And we followed his day as he was doing this really weird stuff, taking very weird photos of these students. This is one thing that came up today a lot, being inclusive. Legislation was passed just 2 weeks before school started that for all the schools where they teach in a native language. The primary school teachers were not allowed to teach Romanian anymore. They were also teaching Romanian as part of their classes, and they're putting native Romanian teachers in their classes, thus accusing minority teachers that they don't actually teach children Romanian. And this is especially targeting the Hungarian minority in Romania. So we did a story on that, and we had it translated into Hungarian and published it at the same time in Romanian and Hungarian, because it kind of makes sense. If you want a story like that to reach the population it's about, you want it to have it in their native language too. This is from a textbook. Last year, a sports textbook was issued for 5th grade, and most of the illustrations look like this. No, they were really terrible, you have no idea. We selected 9 of them, and we made like a multiple choice test online for people to take the test and tell us, and to see if they're as smart as a 5th grader, basically. So 9 questions, the average grade they got was 3. Because this is how the illustrations look like. And all those explanations, the multiple choices, they were taken from the book. Just one of them was correct. People got very mad. They were trying to argue that their answer was good. Well, they had to reach the authors of the textbook. Because you should make fun of things like this, and you have to do it in a way that's not very aggressive, as you would tend to. Oh yeah, and for Andrew, this will be very familiar. We do stories in comic form. This is a story from a school in Bucharest where the principal decided that children do not deserve toilet paper because they ruin it. Yeah, it was great. But this is actually in every school. It's not just there. That's where we got the story. So parents promised that they will pay for all the toilet paper their children ruin, God knows how, so that there would always be toilet paper in the toilets. Otherwise, they just, well, common sense. If they don't have it, they would not use it. They will never know how to use it properly. So we did it as a comic, because just telling this story could have been a bit And we do this a lot, actually. We work with a lot of illustrators, and especially when the main characters are children, we draw them rather than photograph them, to protect them, and also because you can actually add to the story with really good illustrations. And also we sometimes do reporting, like team reporting, where you have a reporter and an illustrator doing the reporting at the same time, and one of them actually does the drawing live. And also we're doing this, group meetings with parents, teachers, students, activists, and specialists, and all that kind of stuff. As we speak right now, one of my colleagues is in Timișoara, which is a western city, large city in Romania, meeting with parents and children and teachers to discuss their problems and what they see, what they think is important in their world. We're going to organize public debates and public hearings on some of the stories we will do this fall. And we're starting the Facebook group for readers, because that's what everyone is doing. But also it's because it is important. And we're doing sound a lot. One of our colleagues has her own podcast for young people, and she's doing a lot of sound bites and stuff like that. I mean, coming from this legacy of very long articles, we really couldn't have went the same way, because we publish daily. You cannot expect people to set aside 2 hours for your website every day so they can read you. So we just played around a lot, and we say no to anything, to nothing, basically. If somebody comes up with a crazy idea in the newsroom, we try it, like the multiple choice test or the comics. It's really fun, and we can, for us too, because we get to experiment a lot. And you can see from the reaction that people have that they enjoy it, that it's maybe a bit tongue-in-cheek sometimes, that it's also serious some other times, and they get to see what's happening in their schools in a different way, maybe in a lighter way sometimes. The WhatsApp conversations, that was read by about 40,000 people. And to us, that was shocking, and it still gets reposted, reshared a lot. I think people suffer very much because of those Facebook groups, those WhatsApp groups. So this is what we're doing. We're looking at the details that make up the world of the people we write about. Of course, we listen to them. We write about the important stuff, the legislation and the way it affects them, about money and why it's not in schools and what's happening, why it's not there. But everything we do, we try to look at it from a very, very precise angle so that we can always come back to the story, add more to it, and also make sure that in those details, the more specific the story is, the more people will be able to find themselves reflected in them. We'll see if it works or not. As I said, we're in our 13th week. We have a very organized schedule. But listening to everyone today, kind of confirming that we're going the right way. Listening to what people need, what people feel that's not covered in the news about their daily lives. Doing all kinds of experiments with form. These are things that can actually bring people back and trust us again. And I brought my notebook, the one that I finished, because I wrote down so many things today. There's one said by Benjamin that really caught me, that what they're doing in our countries, and it's the same almost everywhere, they're doing a death by 1,000 cuts. And this other thing that Tina said, that people don't feel reflected and reported in the media. So that makes them feel hopeless and makes them feel disempowered. And this is something Agatha said. When people are disempowered, they just wait for someone to tell them what to do and how things are. And that means they're primed for dictatorship or tyranny of any kind. I started in journalism in a very small radio station in a small city by the seaside, and our job was very much connected to the community. People would call the radio station and tell us about their worries, and we would try to cover them. We would go there and investigate, whatever that was when I was 19. And I feel like a lot of journalism has forgot how to do that. We let the politicians do the agenda. We worry about the things they tell us to worry about. And all the things that we talked about today show us that we realize this, and we're trying to go back to the way journalism was, the way it was meant to be from before. And we have technology, which is amazing. We don't have to wait for letters in the mail. We can actually communicate with people all the time. And I hope this is what everyone takes from here. This is definitely what I'm taking from here, that we all have the tools to go back to the communities we're serving, and we can actually serve them by listening to what they need and doing that journalism that actually affects their lives and solve their problem the way we can, because we cannot put people in jail yet, as we would all want. But we, just for the fact that we're listening to them and we're trying to solve the problems or find the answers they cannot find by themselves, we're doing so much more than anyone else. Let's just remember to do this. And I see everyone here is. But for the people who are watching us at home. So thank you so much, Outriders. This has been a wonderful experience, and I'm so happy to have heard everyone today. I hope we can keep in touch in some way or another, all of us, and hear more of your amazing stories.